This is Pranav Guha Thakurta from EduTV, the first education channel dedicated to uplift education in Indian subcontinent, Southeast Asia, Middle East, and Africa. In our and principles federal program, it's a matter of principle. Our guest today is Mrs. Menon, the famous Mrs. Shanti Menon. She is university rank holder from the prestigious Stella Maris College, Chennai. She acquired her degree in education after completing her graduation in English literature. She also holds a teaching and training diploma with distinction from the Cambridge University, UK, and a master's degree in education. Running parallel to her chosen career is her talent in the field of dance. A trained Bharatanatyam and Mohiniyattam dancer, Miss Menon has performed extensively and has to her credit many choreographies and events which have won her many laurels. Having been an A-grade audition artist at Doordarshan Chennai, Ms. Shanti featured often on local programs. She has the distinction of being able to perform a variety of Indian folk dances and some Western forms too. Shanti Menon has also, to her credit, some modeling assignments and compares dance programs and events. She has trained students of in Mohiniyattam and Bharatanatyam styles. Ms. Shanti is also trained in Carnatic music and is a creative artist who give life to Tanzore paintings as well. Daughter of the eminent Dr. E. Sridharan, the Metro Man of India, and wife of Mr. Hari Menon, co-founder, CEO of BigBasket.com and ex-CEO of India Skills, a pioneering vocational skills development company. Ms. Shanti is a passionate homemaker and the mother of three sons. She is the founder principal of the Deens Academy, Bangalore, a very famous school. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you, Pranav.
Ma'am, we need your advice on how can passive and reluctant learners can be transformed to active and enthusiastic learners. Over to you, ma'am.
Typically, children are active and engaged in a class if what is being done in the class connects to them. So for that reason, the first thing that we need to do is make it relevant to them. Whatever learning they do, it has to be relevant to them. There is no point in taking a subject or a theoretical class when the children cannot connect to it. It has to be pertinent to their life. So if you're talking about math, you're talking about history, you're talking about any of these core subjects, it has to be brought back and connected to how does it apply to their life. And only then it becomes interesting to a child, because in that sense, they are able to connect to it and see what they're learning is how they're learning is part of their own lives. The second thing is it should be pertinent and relevant to their aspirations. Now, I might be a student of maths up to grade 10. I don't want to do maths later in life. I just don't have an interest in it. Naturally, I'm disconnected from the class. Whereas if the teacher made me understand that whatever profession I take, I still need math in it. So as an educator, I'm a humanities student basically. But had they told me some years back as an educator and someone who's running a school, I need to have a strong hold on the finances of the school, I may have paid a little more attention to the math classes. So that's where the content being transacted in a class has to be relevant and pertinent to the child's future aspirations. The next thing I feel is that's very important is involve the children in their own learning. A lot of times the teacher feels, I know it all. I am the expert. No, not so anymore. The internet gives it all. How you get the children involved in their learning is the way that you can keep the child engaged. And for this, your questions, the way you project certain concepts have to be so triggering for the children. They have to be able to think and ask the kind of questions that they want to ask. And that's another way to keep a inactive or a passive child active in the class. Humor plays a big role in the classroom. Teachers believe that they have to have a straight stage face when they're in the classroom. Not at all. A classroom can be so filled with humor that the child remembers through the sheer experience of what they are going through as they learn. The classroom transaction no longer becomes a teacher top down, but an experience for the child. I believe in learning experiences. I don't believe in learning content. So that's another big thing that a teacher should bring in very actively, humor in a classroom. Finally, and I think this is very, very critical, and this a large part of a teacher's classroom would be among with children who don't have an interest in that particular subject. A lot of children come back and say, how is history relevant to me? I'm going to be doing science later in my future. Well, history is relevant because we are what we are, because history is what writes what we were. And so unless the teacher can empathetically reach out to these kind of children, give them a very clear clue. Okay, I understand you don't have an interest, but let me connect it to something that you can be interested in. So for instance, for little children, math can be a big problem. So what if it's a little boy and you have his worksheets full of cars? I'm sure the child would want to do it. What if it's a history lesson which is connected to something which is very relevant, a very current topic, maybe styling? So for a girl who's in grade 14 years old or 16 years old, all of the latest trends in styling becomes part of her history worksheets. It becomes more relevant. So the teacher needs to connect emotionally to each child's need, connect to the child's and understand that the child possibly doesn't have an interest because this is not a subject of his future. These are kind of little things that I think will connect a passive child into a classroom. More than anything, a teacher is like Ma Durga. You just not have to have 10 hands because you're dealing with different kinds of things in the classroom. You also have to have those 10 eyes. You have to watch for every child's expression, every child's need, every child's interest dipping, and quickly be able to turn your teacher talk, turn your activity, turn the conversation in the class to include that child. You cannot leave a child to remain passive. Passivity starts at a point and then it tips into becoming complete disinterest. Before it tips into passivity, the teacher has to have that hawk eye to catch the child and get the child included inside with all of these topics, tips that I just spoke about. I hope that answers your question, Pranav.
Ma'am, I can't resist without asking one more question. I've been listening to you from so many years. I'll just take a small question. Can I take one small question, ma'am?
Sure, sure.
Ma'am, nowadays the curiosity is diminishing. How can curiosity can be inculcated amongst students, as you rightly said? Like now, students they go to Google, and ma'am, in Google it is not necessary things will be right. Whatever I have written or I have written on the web, the Google is tracked from that without validating, and someone else will take that. Over to you, ma'am. How we can inculcate curiosity among students?
So, like I said, teacher doesn't know all. And we have to believe that children have done a bit of reading, may know a lot, may not know a lot, may be completely ignorant, may be completely proficient. So, as a teacher, you have to be ready for a class where the children contest everything you say. So, if you give them a space in the classroom to be able to discuss, so today we don't need to teach anymore, right? It's all about discussion, bringing out the learning from among the children, consolidating it for them, and then giving it back to them in the form of checking to see in what we call assessment, checking to see if they're on the same page as what you're expecting them to do. So the learning objective is met by the teacher. But for a child that's irrelevant, you have to understand that the learning objective is the teacher's learning objective. You are not going to be able to tell the child that this is what I want you to learn. The child will learn more, the child will learn less.
Right.
But we have to encourage children to read up on their own, come and discuss it. Now, the classroom atmosphere is conducive to children coming and discussing their learning, automatically increases the amount of learning and engagement of a child. Even the child who's most not connected with that subject gets incited into wanting to talk when he sees his peers discussing certain things. peer-to-peer learning is the best method of learning
Right.
I would find. And so a teacher should never lose that opportunity. So encourage children to read. Google may not have all the facts. You can rectify it in class between them at the students when they start talking to each other. And therefore, there's nothing wrong in children reading up on Google and coming into class. The teacher should be equipped to be able to use that learning to kickstart her classroom and achieve her learning objectives.
Thank you so much, Shanti ma'am. It is always pleasure and very informative hearing you. Thank you so much. I know you are very hard pressed with time today. Thank you so much, ma'am, for taking our time. Thank you so much, ma'am. Bye-bye.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.